For someone whose entire career has been focused on joy, why a podcast on pain? Because these stories need to be told. A good phoenix rising out of the ashes story reminds us all that not only can we survive, we can thrive. And when we emerge, we're different. That's the alchemy of pain. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us for another edition of The Alchemy of Pain, which focuses on the fact that every one of us goes through painful experiences in life. But for those who allow those experiences to change them, what I've found is oftentimes they come out the other side and end up helping other people. And in the telling of their stories, they help people too. That's why we're doing this. I'm Brenda Viola, and I'm honored to introduce you to someone I met a few years ago, and I immediately was captivated by the light she shines in any room she enters. Her name is Stephanie Olschner. She is a wellness practitioner, and I always want to know where the light comes from. But first, Stephanie, tell people who you are today and what you do.
Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Stephanie, and I have a empowerment coaching center with my husband that we run. And I have a energy healing clinic that I do out of there once a month. And also we do some group and one-on-ones out of there. And I also get to work with the lymphedema community and educate practitioners, doctors, nurses, therapists on things that can help their patient.
So when I met you, I hope you don't mind me telling this story. If you do,
No,
you can edit it out. But we were
no.
at an event, a conference event, and we had just finished this big, it was a big meeting, and it went well. And so I was ready to toast with champagne, and I walked over and I immediately sensed that you were like, no, I don't, that's not how I celebrate. And I certainly was not offended, but I was impressed that you had that boundary. Is that part of your story?
I guess in a sense it is, because I've done so much work spiritually that I feel when I do have a drink that I never want my soul to feel like it's out of control. I never want to have that feeling of emotionally, mentally, physically, that my soul doesn't have say over those things.
So there was a time in your life where you would imbibe.
Oh, yes. Yes. Oh, yeah. All the drinks.
All the drinks. So this was
Drinks.
an evolution of your own personal spirituality. And what we want to tell everybody
Mhm.
is these stories are pictures of other people. If you can see yourself in their story and learn tools that can help you in your own journey through dark times in your life, then that's what this is all about. We understand that Stephanie's story is just one of many, and we hope you will be uplifted. I don't know your story. That's what's so interesting about this. All I knew was the light.
Yeah.
And the light said to me, there's a story there.
Yeah.
So can you take us back? Because I know that you had a spiritual awakening, but what preceded that?
Okay. So about, I would say, a year prior to that awakening, maybe a year and a half, I lost my grandmother, who was like my mother. And that was very painful. My first real experience of loss to someone that close to me. And right away, within weeks, I got pregnant. And so I never really finished the grieving process because I'm, just like a lot of things going on, pregnancy. I have 4 other children. But then we lost that baby stillborn at 9 months, really close to his due date.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh, my friend.
So little boy Crosby. So that was very painful. I mean, just, rip your heart out kind of pain. And so going through that, also having a daughter, getting ready to graduate as a senior from high school, and our relationship was really rocky at that time. And I was in denial about a lot of things. So I was in a lot of pain. I was angry. I had lots of negative emotions running through me. And so it was overwhelming. And I think that's when my soul just said, okay, it's, we're ready for a change. And that's led up to the spiritual awakening, which was pretty rapid. And
Well, I appreciate you sharing this tsunami of
mhm,
events, which many people may not have risen up from. And that's the thing
yeah.
about darkness. That's the thing about tsunamis of pain. They beckon you to just give up. I'm sure that you might have had moments where you wanted to.
Oh yeah, there was definitely some very dark, low moments.
So let's talk about how you came out.
So it was part of this awakening was having to humble myself and see where I was contributing to any pain that I may have had. And kind of like I said before, like a judgment day on myself of um, how I was causing my pain to turn into suffering. So,
Okay,
and
that's
that's
deep
true.
stuff because there are people maybe watching who have lost a baby or a child or a grandmother, and they're saying, wait a minute, are you going to add to the pain by
Right,
assigning ownership to me? I'm the victim.
right, right. Yeah, and I totally understand that.
I'm not, believe me, I'm not trying to play, I never play devil's advocate. I'm not a fan. But, but so how do you find some
Yeah.
ownership to it without it
And
crushing
yeah,
you?
sure. And this wasn't coming from me. This was coming from a source beyond me. Um, and it really held me at the same time of, yes, we know you're suffering. We know your pain. Um, but these are the things you have control over. These are the things that you have the power to change yourself. And also kind of gave me a glimpse into um why these things happen. These things are just part of our natural cycle of life. And
That's such an important point. Even though pain and loss is part of the natural cycle of life, it doesn't make it any easier to
right,
know that. In fact, we're still surprised when my
yes,
85-year-old mom died, which we
right,
know the cycle of life means you're nearing the end. It didn't make it any easier. So, what I'm hearing you say is there was a lesson to be learned, not
yes,
so much about what happened to you, but how you responded to it.
yes, yeah, yeah, for sure. And it also, like I mentioned before, my grandmother passed away and then my baby, right within 9 months of each other. And it helped me to see that, oh, my grandmother was able to live, 80 some years. And I got to experience that with her, and so that made me able to focus on those years, because I had another situation that I did not have that many years. I only had months that were just in utero. So it was very, I guess it brought some clarity as to, like I said, it's, just these natural cycles of life, and to just focus on what we had. And that was with my grandma, 85 years, and with my baby, it was a short 9 months in utero. However, that was a gift as well.
Seeing,
And that's what helped pull me out of the, of the trenches.
so did you have tools that you could use once you had this awakening? So you had a
Mhm,
series of events, then you had an awakening, and then you're like,
mhm.
I'm going to respond to life differently. I'm going to see everything as a gift rather than as a test. I'm going to get better, not bitter. What tools helped you stay in that kind of spiritual alignment?
Well, eventually I brought on tools like meditation, um, and I surrounded myself with other like-minded people, who kind of, had this thought process and could support me with that. I threw myself into my own health, my mental, physical, and emotional health. Um, because I still had, I still have 4 other kids and a husband and a family kind of to be there for.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And a
And so
community.
there is that too, having people to live for.
Mhm. Even if it was just a community, you have to, you know, how was I going to show up for them as well?
So do you find, so the question ultimately is, how did the pain that changed you forever change you? How do you show up for people now in a way that you
Mm.
never did before?
Oh, I could say a big change is non-judgment. Um, really just doing my best to always see in the eyes of love and compassion, no matter where anyone is at, in their journey. Um, Another one that I continue to practice is non-attachment, which is a tough one,
Let's talk
no
about
matter.
non-attachment for a minute for
Mhm,
people that aren't
mhm.
familiar with that term.
Sure. So for me, the pain with my daughter was that, we were at each other, and she's getting ready to leave for college and, do her own thing. And I wanted to control all of that. And I just, I wanted to protect her. It was like one more thing I was losing, right? And and I had to find unconditional love, Brenda, really. And you think that, oh, I'm a mother, I should just automatically just have that. But my conditions were that I wanted her to be with me, and I wanted, things to go just one way. And so I had to practice just allowing her to do her thing, unconditionally love her, through her choices. And so that kind of spread to everything, really, and everyone. Um, and so the non-attachment comes into play, all the time. Like, am I attached to, we can even use it in my work. Am I attached to, a certain title, or am I attached to, um, you could say an account, or, things like this. Is like, I have to trust that whatever is happening for me and not to me.
Ooh, that is so big. And detaching your identity from the outcomes in life.
Yes.
When you are in sales, you're only as good as your last month and what were your
Right.
numbers, right?
Right. Right.
And I used to find in different iterations in my career when my self-worth was linked to something external, it was shaky. So you mentioned this word trust. The only way you can detach is to trust
Yeah.
something greater than you.
Yes.
What does that mean to you? Because to our viewers and listeners, that can take on a variety of different definitions.
Sure. Sure. Well, I have a deep trust in God, universe, source, you know, we call this great power of all different names, but I use the word God, and that relationship has really strengthened uh over.
I'm going to give you a tough one
Okay.
because there are people out there listening and watching that are struggling with that concept and saying, hey, why should I put my trust in someone, something that could allow such bad things to happen to me?
Yeah.
How do you resolve that?
I can only say that we we have limited vision. We can only see things one way, often our way. And God can see it all, different timelines, different scenarios, different all kinds of um, things that we can't see. And it's just been proven to me over the years, whenever something hasn't worked out, I always see it in the end. Oh, okay. That's why that happens. Or, you know, so
Time is a great lesson giver, and you can see with different eyes and new perspective when you're freshly in the pain. Oh, it's so hard to see any sense or meaning in it. And I just want to say to those watching and listening, I get it. I get it. Then sometimes at strange times, Stephanie, I'll get like a download
mhm.
that's an aha moment, and I see things in a way I never saw it before. You know,
Yeah.
everybody knows that I had 4 beautiful years with my Mark, who was an amazing life partner who healed my heart after 15 years of a very bad toxic marriage. And yeah, yes, Brenda is still tearing up, and I may always, because he was that wonderful. But the other day I was just minding my own business and I sensed he finished his journey.
Mm.
It may not have been the way I wanted him to finish it or on the timing that I would have chosen, but it caused me to think, what if Mark did everything he came to do? And when it was
Mm.
done, he could go. And suddenly, instead of it happening to me, I can honor the life that he lived and thank him for sharing 4 years with me. Is that sort of the perspective shift that you're talking about, that you see things from a higher vantage point if you will allow the wisdom in?
Yes, exactly. Perfectly said. And I just got the goosebumps. Um, and my thought was, how wonderful those 4 years for you with Mark. I mean, what a gift. What a gift.
And it served a purpose because I know what good is now.
Hmm.
I didn't know what good was,
Yeah.
and now I do. And that's something that while I'm here breathing, I can take with me.
Mhm.
So for someone who's watching and listening, how do you recommend that they allow that higher wisdom, that new perspective to download? Is it meditation?
Um, the word that comes up for me is forgiveness. Being able to forgive the situation, what has happened, if we're blaming God or if we're blaming, maybe it was someone that we're blaming for the pain. Um, that's the first and most important step.
That's a huge word.
Yeah.
I feel sometimes like forgiveness is a wrestling match that we have with God.
Mm-hmm.
But when we finally hit the mat and wave the white flag, there's such relief. Because I guess it comes down to, who are we to say that life should go the way we want it to go? Except, okay, I know this is turning into less of an interview and more of a conversation. So work
I
with
love
me,
it.
work
Yes,
with
yeah.
me.
Yeah.
You know, there is this, you create your own reality,
Mm-hmm.
manifesting drumbeat, which I love the ownership of that. Like, the thoughts that I think produce the life that I live, and I like that. But then when all the what hit the fan, all of a sudden I really wanted to believe in something bigger than just me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Can it be both? Is this an existential question that we are posing to our audience right now? I mean, and do we don't have to have all the answers, and nor shall we in this life. But grappling with it is the stuff of life, and talking to people that cause you to think. I think that that's where so much of our, maybe we don't even get the answers, but we are comforted.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I like to think of that as co-creating. Are you co-creating with God? You know?
So, as a wellness practitioner, how do you serve humanity?
Hmm. Well, we have our pranic energy healing clinic. Uh, it's a donation-based clinic once a month,
Where is
and
that?
here in Phoenix. And so so I invite other practitioners to come and join me, and we offer our services at no charge. Um, and what pranic healing does is we teach meditation, and then we also work with prana, which is divine energy, to assist in healing our minds and bodies wherever um, someone might need that.
So, Mark was an energy healer, and
Oh,
I know, he
I
was
didn't
way
know
more spiritual than I am. And he
that.
used to like put his hands over the crown
Uh-huh.
and direct energy. What is the experience like in your clinic? How does that happen? Is it a hands off?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. It's a no touch healing modality. So, and similar to Mark's practice, we use the divine prana, and it comes in from the crown. And we're as practitioners, we're not doing the work. We're merely a channel for the divine energy to come in and do what it needs to do for the client. And we just kind of get out of the way. We're just kind of, guiding it for the person. So
What do you, as the vessel, feel like when you know that energy is flowing through you?
I mean, it's like, we say we're getting the healing as well as the client, which is beautiful. It really is that, you know, giving and receiving, because as it's flowing through, you're receiving as well. So we feel great after always after our clinics. So yeah.
What made you get to the point where after your painful experiences and then your spiritual awakening, but then the next level is now I want to help other people? When did
Mhm.
you get that prompting in your heart that this is the next step for you?
Well, it actually started with finding it for myself, because I needed the healings. I, needed to show up in a certain way. Um, so then as you start for yourself and you're doing the healings and the meditations, you can't help but want to serve others. So then it just becomes a part of you. And
And how in the world could this have been produced without the pain? So we know Rumi has said that where the wound is where the light enters. And
mm,
so I want to thank you for the light that you share with so many. And there might be someone who's watching or listening right now who has just gone through a very painful loss. Maybe they had a stillborn child, or their beloved grandmother, or they're in fighting with their teenager, and we all know how that can go. What would you say to someone who could use a really good dose of hope right now?
mm. I know it sounds so cliche, but there, when you can, just show up for yourself, and really in that darkness at the end of the tunnel, there is light. You just, it goes back to the trust. It's there. You just have to you have to look.
That's such a beautiful note. The light is always there. And sometimes I will be driving and it will be a cloudy day and gloomy. And I think to myself, but behind those clouds, there is sun. And if you just stick around, it'll come out again.
Yeah.
Stephanie, how can people follow you and find you?
You can follow me on Instagram at Stephanie Olschner. Um, and my wellness practice is called Wealthy Lifestyle. And there's a link to my website on my Instagram handle as well. So,
Perfect. We will lead people there. And I want to thank you for being so vulnerable to share your story. I knew that there was a story there,
yeah.
and I'm honored. I think it's a holy thing to share our stories. And so I'm honored by it, as our audience is as well. And I want to thank you all for listening to this episode. If you know someone who has made it through pain and it has produced something beautiful that could inspire others, send them my way. I would love to interview them as well. And until then, keep going. The light is there. Have a great
Thanks,
day.
Brenda.